Welcome. You're watching Vision Plus. I'm Bonnie Libhart, and we have a special guest with us you'll meet in just a moment. You know, there's something that I really feel is special for you. If you happen to just be crossing the dial of the television and you hit Victory Network, and well, I wonder what it is special that she has for me. And so I want to tell you about it. It is in Zephaniah, the 3rd chapter, and the verse 17. The Lord thy God in the midst of thee is mighty. He will save. He will rejoice over thee with joy. He will rest in his love. He will joy over thee with singing. Isn't that exciting? What we have in store for us, not only in the Sunday honey years and lifetime, but in today, that the Lord over us is mighty, and we are in the palm of his hand. And, you know, as you're watching television, the different programs that is here on Victory Network or TBN or other programs, and you hear somebody say something and it kind of touches that untapped potential within you, that sleeping giant, that part of you that only you and your Creator knows about, the part that is so special where sometimes God just sends someone to reach down inside of you and pull out the good, because we are created in his image. And each one of us has good inside of us. No matter if that person did 100,000 million mean things, there is still something good inside of each person. And it takes not only another human being to touch you, but perhaps the Word of God, or just that still small voice inside of you when you know that someone's speaking to you. You wonder what it is. And you know that good things happen to you. Of course, bad things happen to you too. But when life goes along, we still make it in spite of those things. But as we go through life and good things do happen to us, then our responsibility is to share it with someone else. And I have someone with me today that feels that someone came into his life, someone you've met perhaps if you've been watching the program the last couple of years, someone you either know through television or that you've had an opportunity to meet personally, as a very special friend of Emily Libhart, and that is my guest today, Les Bailey. Les, you had said something to me, and I wanted you to tell me what you said about Emily. You felt?
I felt like that the Lord had sent her to me because I was lost in sin, and I don't know, I feel like the Lord sent her to me because when we met, she was, doing a TV show here, and she was in church and everything, and I hadn't been in church much in my life, but I don't know.
As a result of your knowing her, you have now been, tell us some of the things. Just tell us little events of your meeting her and what's transpired since then.
Well, I met her, and we started, going out, and
fell in love, and
we fell in love, and
she went to church with her. We went to Bruce's church one time.
We went to church a couple of times together, and the funny thing about it is Emily was always a Christian, and she played gospel music here with Victory Network, and when I met her, she had started getting away from it a little bit, and I had been encouraging her to try to get her back into it, because I felt like that God had given her a gift and that she should use it, because she was so good with other people and good for other people, and I felt like that, God had put her here to help put out his word and bring other people, to him. And anyway, me and Emily we was discussing getting married, and we was possibly going to be married within like 2 or 3 months from now. And we was out one night and on University Drive, and we was going to the house from across the other side of University Drive, and Emily got hit by a truck and killed. And I don't know, it's been real hard for me, but I've started the church at the First Assembly of God, and I've asked God to come into my life, and He has. And I've been, reading the Bible and going to church and trying to do the best thing I can do since this happened to me. And I feel a lot better now that I have God. And, I would like to encourage everybody that don't know the Lord to try to get to know the Lord, because if it hadn't been for God and you and Tony Libhart, I don't think I could make it.
Emily was a special person. She touched a lot of people's lives, and as a result of her death, not only were you saved and baptized in water, and also baptized in the Holy Spirit, and have been reading the Bible, but a lot of other people that has happened too. And that's what I think that the message is of, we don't understand why. I got about 2 pages to ask God when I get there of why now, why her, why my daughter, why your special friend. And I don't think there's an answer to why at this point in our lifetime. But so many wonderful things have happened since then. Not only you, but your sister Debbie gave her life to the Lord last week and lives in Kentucky. And she has 3 sons, and her husband's going to Egypt. So we just don't know what the end of this will be. I'm sure her sons will come on to be baptized and give their life to the Lord, and her husband. And God is just, He might touch a lot of people over in Egypt. And this war that's happening, whatever they're wanting to call it now, police action, conflict, to me it's war if one person hurts another person or hates another person. And that could be touched through Emily's life and the people that'll go over there, like Debbie's husband, that will get to know the Lord as a result of that. There's about a dozen that was saved then at her funeral, but I know not only that, I think that at the funeral, Vicki and Chuck had talked to the Bundrents, Jim and Helen Bundrent, and they've started 2 programs here on Victory, which will touch a different audience because of their love for God and their love for the healthy body as well as the healthy spirit, talking about nutrition. And just like Charlie Kane was talking to you, that you're going to find that this love that you've now found out about through Emily and through the Lord Jesus Christ is going to continue. And our job then is to tell other people about it. We're doing that with some of the things that Emily wrote and some of the things that people wrote to us as a result. In fact, I have a couple of pages in there that is the daily Bible reading that Emily had marked. That'll be in that booklet. And also, there's a booklet of what to do when someone dies. There's a portion of it, because I know that a lot of people wonder what to do. I have 4 brothers, and last one of them didn't even hardly get in touch with me. And when I called him, and he said he just didn't know what to say, because sometimes there isn't anything you need to say. Just be there. What has helped you the most as far as getting through this, in addition to giving your life to the Lord? What else has helped you as far as coping with this terrible death?
Being around, Christian people, and you and Tony, and the family. That's y'all. Of course, y'all are all Christians too, but just being around good people, people that have give their life to God, being in church, meeting, you know, nice people, the kind of people that love you. And I was spending my life in bars all the time and places like that. And I've really seen a lot of bad things. And been in fights. And I've been in jail for fighting and been in jail for DUI and things like that. And things like that's just not any good. It's not any good for anybody the way I see it. And you know, the reason I feel like one reason why I feel like the Lord sent Emily to me is because of the way things has been since I've met her. You know, I've met you and your husband, and Chuck and Vicky here at the network, and Brother Cooper at church. You know, and I really enjoy going to church. The people there are nice. Everybody loves everybody. And it's not like, you know, when you're out here involved in things around the world, it's not like people that are out here on dope and people that are drinking, talking about each other and bickering back and forth, you know. It's a totally different life, and it's really been good for me. And now I go home, you know, I go home at night and I read the Bible and I pray. And you know, I used to sometime ask myself, sometime I used to have doubts, you know, about, you know, people would tell me that the Lord could do this and the Lord could do that. And I used to have my doubts, but since I've asked God to come into my life, I've already seen God do things for me. And just like I was having problems, you know, worrying about Emily or where Emily was at. And one night I read about 2 verses in the Bible, and I got down on my hands and knees and prayed before I went to bed and asked God to please let me know that Emily was okay. And I went to sleep, and as I went to sleep, I started dreaming. And I dreamed that I saw Emily's casket come up out of the ground, and it had crosses all the way around it. And that was God's way of letting me know that Emily was in heaven. And I've also felt like since she died that I didn't have anything to live for. And I've even, you know, thought about killing myself and things like that. And it seemed like something comes to me and tells me no, not to do that, that if I do that, I can never be with Emily. And you know, since I've started the church and asked God to come into my heart too, I have nightmares. You know, I spent some time in Atlanta, Georgia, in the streets when I was a teenager. My mother and father had troubles, you know, when I was a kid. And my father did time in prison, and my mother married another man while he was gone, and he used to beat us when we was kids, and he beat my mother and stuff like that. So I ran off from home when I was like 13 years old, and I spent a good 4 or 5 years, you know, in the streets, and I saw young people that was on drugs shooting up, and I saw, you know, a lot of my good friends. I even saw 2 or 3 of my good friends that died with AIDS and things like that. And I just, you know, since I found God, I feel a lot better. And sometimes I go to sleep and dream, and it's like I dream things that happened when I was in the street, and it's like Satan is trying to pull me back to where I was at. But I'm going to keep reading the Bible and keep praying, and you know, keep asking God to take control of me. And every time bad thoughts enter my mind, I say to myself, I rebuke you, Satan. and I asked God to come into my heart and control me and keep me going. And I feel like that God's got a work for me, that there's, you know, things He wants me to do to help other people, and that's what I'm trying to do now. And I just hope God will bless me and keep me going and help me and give me strength that I can do good for other people.
That's what I think that each one of us are here for, is that we are to touch other people's lives with the way we live our life. It's not been an easy thing for any of us that loved her, the family members and friends. It's just people write and say, I couldn't write to you for a few days because I just felt so sad inside of all the people. I have people write, you know, that are in their 60s and 70s, say, in all of my lifetime I haven't done the things that Emily has done in such a short time, because she did take the Bibles to Russia, but more than that, she was just so bold. Places that she would go, she would, most anywhere she would go, she was bold to not be ashamed that she was a Christian and to do right. And I really hope that her life was lived for, and I know that it was, that it touched other people, so that we that are still here can go and touch other people's lives as a result of that. And I think that God brings people into our life for a short period of time or a long time sometimes, and when that happens, then they bless our life, then we're supposed to go out and bless other people's lives. It's like a little pebble that's dropped into a stream, and I think Emily is just like a little pebble you drop in the stream. She touched that spot in the stream of life, but those ripples just go out and touch so many other people, and you're one that she's touched. I'm one. I just thank God on a daily basis that He chose me to be her mother, so that I had that experience, because she was, in fact, my teacher. She was a person that I learned from, because I was in church a lot more hours than she ever was, but she knew Jesus so intimately that she really didn't ever get away from that, even though she, you know, Peter denied Jesus when he was going to the cross. There's not been anybody that's lived a perfect life, and Emily didn't either, and I wouldn't want to even pretend that she did. But I was thinking about Josiah, who was one of the kings. He was really good. He was a good king, and I think it is in Chronicles, 2 Chronicles 35. Well, I'm going to tell the story, but I could find it and show it to you in a minute. But he started when he was a very young person, 8 years old, in fact, when he actually came. And by the time he was 16, he had all of 8 years later, he had been reigning for 8 years, or by years and names. He wiped out all of the idols and things that people had been worshiping. He just cleaned up the whole country of God's people. When he was older, right before he died, I need to find that verse so I can show you, 2 Chronicles 35. But what he did, he went out and he wanted to fight in one of the battles. And that king told him, said, no, don't come and fight in this battle, because God has said you shouldn't come and fight in this battle. Well, he disguised himself as someone else, and he went ahead and fought in it anyway. And he got mortally wounded, and he died that night. He had the people take him over to the side of the road, back to where his camp was, and he did die. And he had gone against what God wanted him to do. Let's see, I'm just going to read it real quick. He was such a good king, and he had cleaned up everything. And then after all this, when Josiah had prepared the temple, Necho, king of Egypt, it was king of Egypt, which we always think of as not a terrific king. And he came and he said, I come not against thee this day, but against the house with which I have war. For God commanded me to make haste. forbear thee from meddling with God. Now the king of Egypt is telling him, in other words, you shouldn't be doing this. And I'm sure that we were praying for Emily, and like you were even saying to her, you shouldn't be doing some of the things that you're doing when toward the end. Said, forbear thee from meddling with God who is with me, that he destroy thee not. Nevertheless, Josiah would not turn his face from him, but disguised himself that he might fight with him, and hearkened not unto the words of Necho from the mouth of God, and came to fight in the valley of Megiddo. And it went on to say that the archers shot at King Josiah, and the king said to his servants, take me away, for I'm severely wounded. He died that night. But after he died, because he was such a good king, that he died and was buried in one of the sepulchres of his father. And all Judah and Jerusalem mourned for Josiah, and Jeremiah lamented for Josiah, and all the singing men and the singing women spoke of Josiah and their lamentations to this day, and made them an ordinance in Israel, and behold, they were written in the lamentation. Now, the rest of the acts of Josiah and his goodness, according to that which was written in the law of the Lord. To me, it was kind of like Emily. I don't remember her having very many parts of her lifetime when she wasn't a pretty good person. I mean, when she was little, she didn't get into things that other people got into. Like Josiah the king, she was just also always a pretty good person. Of course, when she was a teenager, there were a couple nights she didn't come home. I mean, I don't mean to insinuate she was a saint, but she went through the period of time, and lots of people knew for years, 10 years, 12 years, that she did a lot of good things. Then she had a few bad days that she wasn't doing perfect right before she died. But then after she died, people started seeing. Well, I know the day that she died. What did she tell you on the day that she died?
Well, she told me 45 minutes before she died that it was on a Saturday night, and she told me no matter what happened that day, that she would be in church Sunday morning, and that she wasn't going to have anything else to do with bars and things like that. That all she wanted to do was go to church and try to speak God's word and help other people. And I can say one thing: as wonderful a person as Emily was, people ought to look at that and know that it could happen to you as well as it happened to her. And I feel like she was one of the most wonderful people that I have ever met in my life. And people really better think, because it could be them any minute now, just like it was her. And people better really think hard and try to become, Christians and get to know the Lord, because you never know, any minute it could be you, just like what happened to her.
Now, you said that you actually have one of her Bibles, and you were reading some of the things that she has underlined. You've been going through, and I think you said that for the first time in your life, now you start understanding the Bible. It makes sense, doesn't it?
Since I asked God to come into my heart, and since I've been baptized and been going to church regular, I've been praying and asking God to help me understand the Bible. And I mean, one night I was praying and I asked God to help me understand the Bible, and I started reading it, and it was just like me and you sitting here talking to each other, how it came to me. And I thank the Lord for that, and I'm going to continue to study the Bible, and all I do is study the Bible, and I keep asking God to let me get closer to Him. And I've really been blessed already, and and
well,
met
we
a
know
lot
you've already brought your sister into the kingdom through your. You were kind of excited that she was coming down from Kentucky to visit, because you said, "My sister's coming. We're going to be in church," and there she gave her life to the Lord.
Yeah, and she sat down and talked to you. We was over at your house doing some moving and things, and she sat down and talked to you, and y'all prayed, and she said she gave her life to the Lord, and she went back to Kentucky Sunday, and she called me just last night, and she said that she was going to find a church over there in Kentucky and take her kids to church.
Praise
and
God.
Her little boy even said, we went out to my grandmother's Sunday, before she left to go home. And her little boy even told her, he said, "Mama, I'll be glad to go to church with you." He said, "I love to go to church." So
3 men of God coming into the kingdom. I can see it now. It's going to be soon. And so that's our job, isn't it? It says go into all the world. That means brothers and sisters. That means earthly brothers and sisters, and that means not only the brothers and sisters that are our fleshly brothers and sisters, but the people whose path we touch and lives that cross our lives. Anyone that comes across our life. I call it, from now on, I believe that Les Bailey has what I call the 3-foot rule. If you come within 3 foot of him, you're going to hear about Jesus Christ. So that's beautiful. He'll be just the way Emily did, and Chuck and Vicki and all the people that are hosts on this Victory Network, is that they all have the 3-foot rule. If you come within 3 feet, they're going to tell you about Jesus and how he can...
You know, it's a funny thing, too. You know, you sit at home and you watch the news, and you know, I've been thinking about it since it's happened to Emily. I've sit at home, I've watched the news, and I've heard about, you know, this one getting killed, this one having a car wreck and getting killed, and people just don't think, you know. I never dreamed in my life that anything like this would happen to me, and, you know, next thing you know, just like that, it happened.
So God brought Emily into your life to bring him to you, because he must have loved you so much, Les, that he would make sure that wherever you were, she had to find you there and tell you about Jesus. Yeah. And that's our responsibility then for everyone. And we want to tell you about Jesus. If you'd like to have Les come and talk to someone about Jesus,